Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is another one of the Wired videos on like former CIA type videos, I guess you could say. I did one about a week ago, and I was like it was to do with disguises, and it was it's different to what I usually react to, but it was one of the most interesting things I've seen because it's just crazy how people can like disguise in such crazy ways. It's just crazy. It's crazy how they can disguise in such like insane ways. I said crazy twice, but yeah, this one is CIA chief, former CIA chief of disguise breaks down Cold War spy gadgets, and I have a feeling this is going to be a really, really good one as well. I'm going to get to this one. Former CIA disguise breaks down 30 spy scenes from film and TV. That's one that got suggested as well. It's got a lot of views as well, so people will probably be more interested in that. But I wanted to do this one. I'm interested in sort of like spy gadgets because like I don't really know how people will come up with these sort of ideas of like having a small little camera and like a bow tie, like the tip of your pen, or just things like that. And again, this is when it was a Cold War, so it may be a little bit different to that. But I don't know. We'll just see in this, right? We'll just see. But yeah, let's just get into this. I don't even want to talk too much. Let's just get into this. Hopefully, you're going to enjoy. Suggest some more things like this you want to see. And yeah, quick shout out to my Patreon. Links in the description for that. A lot of Patreon exclusive videos. Go on there because like YouTube block a lot of videos and I get a lot of suggestions for new stuff on the Patreon. So the links are all there for that, and same for my Instagram, my Twitter. Links are all there for those who want to follow those socials. But let's get into this and let's check this.
Surveillance in Moscow was the most difficult kind of surveillance that we encountered around the world. We didn't have Paris rules or Buenos Aires rules. There were no other rules except Moscow rules because it was such a difficult place for us to work. Hi, I'm Jonna Mendez. I'm the former chief of disguise for the CIA. Today I'm going to talk about some of the CIA's gadgets that we used during the Cold War. I worked for the Office of Technical Service at the CIA. We used to always think of it as CIA's Q. We were the gadget people. Everything that we did in Moscow had to be done clandestinely. You couldn't overtly go out and collect intelligence. We all had surveillance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It didn't matter where you were. If you were in your apartment, which would be in an embassy compound, you'd have surveillance in the walls, and it would be live surveillance. We had something of a breakthrough in determining whether or not we had surveillance, and that was a piece of equipment that we called the SRR 100. It was actually composed of three different pieces. One was some small phonak ear devices that went into your ear. They were earpieces. They were actually commercially available. But we would mold your ear and create a new inner ear for you that would sit in on top of the phonak. We would paint them to match your ear. There was a neck ring that went with it. It was an induction piece of technology. And then there was a receiver itself. Those were tuned into KGB surveillance frequencies. And we had a fairly comfortable sense that if we had surveillance following us, they were using radios, we were on their frequency, that we would be able to hear them, that we would be able to correlate if we turned right or if we turned left, that we would hear them calling that out. He's turning right, he's turning left. It wasn't foolproof, but it was enough to give us a very good sense of if there was anybody back there. Knowing that you were being watched would mean that that day, all you would do is perfectly innocuous things. You would not do anything operational that day because you were under surveillance. Another method of losing surveillance was using one of our SAMs, one of our semi-animated masks. It was a mask that would allow you to apply different disguise materials all at one time, which would allow you to get in the car wherever you were wearing your true face, and somewhere along the way, putting on your new face, your SAM mask, and after you'd taken 2 right-hand turns and stepped out of the car, when surveillance came down the street, they would see what maybe looked like a Russian man walking toward them, and the car they were following still up ahead of them.
Oh, wow.
They would go right by you. So that if you were a blonde, unshaven, unmustached, young...
That is literally something from like a movie. You can like imagine that kind of situation, that scenario being in like a James Bond movie. Bro, we're only 2 in and I'm already like, what the hell? So I'm intrigued. I'm so interested in seeing what else there is because this one This is definitely my favourite so far. This one's crazy. How you can just walk by and they just wouldn't have a clue like who you are or anything. They wouldn't suspect anything.
Young man and needed to wear a disguise that night that might have a dark beard, dark mustache, dark hair, maybe a different skin tone. Instead of having to sit in front of a mirror and assemble that on your face, you would just take your Sam mask. And so it had a nickname, the 5-second
real
mask.
as well.
5 on, 5 off. But there was one last piece. It had to crumple down to almost nothing and fit under your armpit. If you were being pursued and you had to take it off and had to turn into your real self, you had to be able to conceal it. Another technique that we used with the masks was an operation called Lying Doggo. We had a couple getting ready to go to Moscow, and we asked them to buy a dog and take the dog with them, a very large dog, a particular dog. We went to our wig maker. We showed the wig maker a picture of the great big dog, and she made, not a wig, but she made a dog, just a covering that looked like a dog, that you could put in the back seat of a car, and it would look like your dog was asleep in the back seat. That couple would set a pattern of I don't know how often, but every so often, they would leave the embassy compound with their dog. And so the man at the gate would get used to seeing them go through the gate with their dog in the back seat. Not always asleep, sometimes asleep. And then when we needed operationally to move a person, that person would get in the car under the dog concealment and go through the gate, and the Millie man wouldn't blink twice.
What the hell?
That was a
That
way
is crazy.
to move a person around. We had a device called the Jack-in-the-Box, or a jib. When we used the jib, a dummy would pop up out of a concealment device, replacing the officer who had just stepped out of the car. And so the way it would typically work is the driver would get in the car, the passenger, which would be the case officer who needed to get out of the car and go do his operational stuff, he'd be in the passenger seat. And so they'd go out through the gate, and their surveillance team would pull in behind them, and they'd go on a predetermined route, one that they had planned specifically to do a car escape. They would find a right turn, followed by another right turn. They would have disconnected their brake lights. The officer would open the door, step out of the car. The driver would take the purse, the attaché, set it on the passenger seat, push the button. The thing would pop up. Surveillance comes around the corner. There's still 2 silhouettes in the car moving down the street, not too fast. And our officer would be free to go and do an operational act. This was...
What? Wait, let me just hear this through again.
The surveillance team would pull...
My head is gone. Wait, what? Was I just daydreaming, or did I actually hear that correctly?
And they'd go on a predetermined route, one that they had planned specifically to do a car escape. They would find a right turn, followed by another right turn. They would have disconnected their brake lights. The officer would open the door, step out of the car. The driver would take the purse, the attaché, set it on the passenger seat, push the button. The thing would pop up. Surveillance comes around the corner. There's still 2 silhouettes in the car moving down the street, not too fast. And our officer would be free to go and do an operational act. This was a very important tool. And once an agent loses their surveillance and is absolutely certain that they have lost their surveillance, they can do anything. A dead drop is the way we would package the information that we were giving to the agent, where we could put our questions for the agent in some sort of a concealment device and put it on the ground somewhere, or in a tree, or wherever the proper place was determined to be. And they, on the other hand, could give us the answers to our questions by doing the same thing. It could be a list of requirements. We could be passing to him medicine for his son who was sick. It could be money. Whatever we needed to pass to the agent had to be concealed so that it wasn't apparent what it was, because we were going to put it down somewhere and leave it unattended and put up a signal so he'd know to come and get it. A signal to an agent, it's a prearranged, so the agent knows what to look for. It could be a lipstick mark on a telephone pole. It could be a light in a window. It could be moving a flower pot on a balcony from one side to another. It was an endless supply of possibilities for signals. The dead drop that has gotten the most attention over the years is the dead rat. We determined early on that a dead rat was pretty much untouchable in any country, in any...
shit. If they're telling me they're going to put like a camera in a dead rat, I'm going to be done, bro. Or anything like to like signal or whatever. Oh my god. This is smart because no one's going to want to touch a dead rat,
religion by any people. No one will pick up a dead rat. They just won't. So we did. We picked up dead rats and we took them to the taxidermist and they tidied them up and they Velcroed their tummies. Oh, and they dipped them in Tabasco sauce. The Tabasco was in case an animal picked up your dead rat. You could fit more in a dead rat than you might think. If you were determined to get a certain number of rubles or a certain number of questions or maybe some old antique jewelry. If you roll dollar bills up real tight with rubber bands, you can get a lot of dollar bills in.
What
or
the
rubles. I think I liked one that we put down for Trigon early on, Overrodnik. Overrodnik was his Soviet name. Trigon was his code name. He was giving us information on the strategic arms limitations talks. It's called the SALT talks. This was SALT 2. He was giving us the Soviet bottom line on negotiating, what they were willing to do and below which they would not go. Which is like, if you're playing poker, it's like having the other guy's cards in your hands. And we left, I believe it was his first drop, and we left it in a dirty construction glove. Just one. Just on the ground by a phone booth. That was the first thing he picked up from us. We devised many concealment devices in OTS, and some of them were used for escape scenarios. The false scrotum is a really interesting story. We were always interested in the possibility of our officers being captured and maybe being held prisoner. Around the world, our officers needed to be able to hide some tools so that they could make an attempt to escape if that happened to them. And the theory is that the false scrotum was one such concealment device. The question about the false scrotum is whether it was ever actually used. If you were going to be in a situation where you would be strip searched, you might, in advance, knowing that you were going into a life and death situation, prepare yourself like Houdini to have some escape tools. The rectal toolkit was a little bit like a suppository. You put it in case you needed it. It was important that it be very well made, that it be very smooth surface, that it not cause any injury coming or going. But inside of it were small tools that could be used in a variety of ways. It was not a bad idea.
That's crazy.
So
if they use that, I rate it, but it's the weirdest thing I've ever heard of. I was not expecting to have like false scrotums to be used to like hide certain things when I was looking at this video. That's made my day.
Some of these agents that worked for us knew that there was not a good ending if it ended, and they said, we'll only work for you if you give us cyanide pills. The first two that I know of, we gave out in pens, in writing pens. They were in the cap of the pen. What we're looking at here is a cyanide pill that was put in the bow stem of a pair of glasses.
What?
And the way it was constructed is that the agent, in order to access the pill, would just take off his glasses and just bite down on the earpiece. There was a glass ampule inside with the cyanide in it. It was a desperate measure, but they were desperate times. And these men knew that they didn't want to go through the interrogation and the torture that the KGB had in mind before they were executed.
Bro, that is wild. So they just took cyanide pills. That makes you really like understand how crazy these times were. Like they were, man. Bro, that is wild.
John was arrested at home in his office. The KGB came in. They had found all of his tools, all of his supplies. He had nowhere to go. And so they had him stripped of his clothes. He just had on his skivvies. And he said to them, I will write my confession, but I want to write it with my pen. My pen. He wanted his Mont Blanc pen, and they gave it to him. And my office, OTS, had milled out the cap. So he took the cap off and he put it on top. And he looked at them and he just bit down on it. The Russian said he was dead before he hit the floor. I hope. That's what he wanted.
What the fuck? Wait, cyanide kills you that quick? Wait. How? That's so depressing, but it's... I mean, obviously it made sense so you don't have to suffer like the... how long does... You don't have to suffer the abuse and all that kind of stuff. Does this... Wait, does cyanide take to kill you? I guess it matters in doses and stuff, but I'm just wanting to see. 3 minutes. What actually... What does cyanide do to the... Does it like give you a heart attack or something? Prevents the cells of the body using oxygen, and when this happens the cells die. Cyanide is more harmful to the heart and brain than other organs because the heart and brain use a lot of oxygen. I mean, it must be a brutal way to go, but better than what they could have faced, isn't it? But it just shows how crazy these
Working
times
in
are,
Moscow
man.
really was a life and death operation. All the time. You were risking the life of your agent. You made a mistake, you were always worried. If your equipment wasn't working, if your tradecraft wasn't what it should be, whenever someone got caught, you went home and thought, oh God, is it something that I did? Did I make the mistake? While these devices were primarily used during the Cold War, some version of these devices is in use today.
Really?
The business of meeting with spies and collecting intelligence and transmitting the intelligence, those things don't change. How we do it might change, but it's still the same work.
Man, I tell you what. If this is what it was like back then, I can't imagine the tools they use now, man. It must be so advanced. Maybe instead of dead rats, they're using like dead squirrels or something. Honestly, though, like, what the hell is crazy, man? Somewhere an old Russian agent is watching this and crying out, the dog, of course it was the dog. The guy at the gate that would always let the dog in. Me using my grandfather's pen. Me bites the lid to concentrate. The thing is, there probably was actually cases of this actually happening, wasn't there? I guarantee there was cases like that, similar to this sort of what he just said there, that actually happened. Russian search guard, he's clean, he's got 4 balls though. Friendly reminder, this is just the surface. Honestly, man, there's so much more. If I used that cyanide pen, I'd have written gotcha and a bit. She was trying her hardest to hold back a smile when talking about the rectal pill. It's crazy realising that she's only able to share these secrets because they're probably really outdated. Imagine the gadgets now. Honestly, man, that's what I'm saying. Like, the gadgets now must be so advanced. Imagine being a pen biter and accidentally biting the pen, the death pen. Mate, me and my pens, that's all I do. I just bite pens. When I was at school, I used to bite my pens all the time, and then, like, the pen would be ruined within like a day of having it, and it's just like, yeah, I could see myself accidentally of doing that if I was a spy back in the day in the Cold War. I could have just seen myself doing that and just accidentally killing myself. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this one. It's a really interesting video, and I'm really down to do more of these ones. These CIA type videos are so interesting, and I want to do more. This guy's an astronaut. I've seen him before. He's got this famous videos that he posted, and just stuff like this. I'm gonna have to check out more of the channel, man. If you want more, just let me know. And yeah, if you do, let me know what videos you would want to see. But yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, peace.